Now joining us to analyze the stories is Charles Fakroha, IBrandTV senior analyst. Thank you for joining us, Charles.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's begin with this story coming from the power sector. The Lagos State government is in the process of enacting a law to regulate the electricity markets in the state. And of course, they are saying that this became necessary as most private individuals and businesses in Lagos utilize diesel-powered generators rather than electricity from the national grid. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a good one from the Lagos State government, but at the same time, you need to look at the environment before you enact any law, as the case may be, and see how practical it is. If these private businesses and individuals, they are having reliable electricity from whatever disco, whether Eko or Ikeja, they won't bother themselves using alternative. It is obvious the government has not been able to provide the needed power for those operations, and these individuals and private businesses must continue to be in business, and that is why they are using alternative sources. Before that, again, you also discover that at one point in time, Lagos State environmental whatever was even harassing. I call that harassment, because you are telling these private business owners that their generators are emitting fumes to the environment, is a problem, and they're going to shut them down. And we ask ourselves, if as a government, that is Nigeria now, you're able to provide a better electricity that is from national grid, and it is constant, reliable, do you think any businessman will want to go and incur unnecessary costs using diesel? So if you have failed in your responsibility, then you should not just take it up on the business people. Yes, they are saying they want to regulate. Are you going to regulate what they use, or you are going to say you legislate that you must use from the national grid? If you are doing that, then you need to ensure that that national grid that you are telling them to make use of, then it must be reliable. But
aren't the discos supposed to buy the power from the generating companies?
Yes, like he said, for the past 9 years they've been established. It's just about 800 to 900 megawatts. Maybe they've improved to 1,000. Yes, you do that. The most important thing is it reliable? Because as a businessman, and I know many businessmen
in terms
today,
of consistency.
Consistency, yes, it's always there. Most businesses today, even in government establishment, you would, in fact, I know a government establishment that produces certain things, the so-called national grid power, or let's say NEPA, is the alternative, while the other one is now their constant power, because there are sensitive production that you do. You don't even want the power to just go off. So when you are doing that, you want to use the alternative that you can control, that it is reliable, it will not just go off. When you are finished with that sensitive production, you can now switch off to the so-called NEPA. Even in hospitals, I've seen it. In operations, they use their own alternative because they know that within that 2, 3, 4 hours they are doing that operation, they know that their power is reliable.
So I know that one of the things the Gencos have always complained about is the fact that, or rather the Discos, they've always complained about the fact that they don't have enough funds to purchase this power. Now, in talking about regulating it, are they going to be provided more funds, or what exactly is going to be done in that regard?
Well, intervention in the power sector has been a lot of controversy. So if you are telling the average Nigerian, they will not even listen to you. We have seen so much intervention. And if you say these Discos are run, it's a private company. If they are short of funds, then they should look at ways of raising funds for themselves. They should not be going to the government to beg them. Of course, government has sold these companies to them. So they should be able, if they have the core competence, they should be able to run this firm. And if they don't have enough funds, then they could seek funds.
So I'm wondering how this law would work. Because if you have a law in place and the people who are supposed to purchase the power to distribute it to consumers do not have what it takes to get that power, we'll still have more wastages. Will the law be able to deal with that?
Well, in this case, they might tell you that the Discos will have to make arrangements to get that funding to purchase this power. I'm sure that will be the assumption.
But you also know that we have issues with implementing our laws.
That's
so
true.
It's not always about churning out laws.
I agree with that.
How
yes.
implementable?
And that's why, well, it's just a proposal. So, of course, the various stakeholders will sit down. There'll be a public hearing, some of the challenges and all that. And, of course, maybe the Lagos State House of Assembly will go back and see how they can, touch it one way or the other and see that how it's going to reflect the current realities on the ground.
I know that there's a plethora of issues with the power sector. For instance, just this morning, it was in the news that the power distribution companies were talking about consumers not paying for prepaid meters. But we know that still happens. And they're saying that you shouldn't pay for it. But a lot of people have had to pay for their prepaid meters.
Again, that is another issue. I'm not going to be their image maker, but I know that in some areas, they follow the government regulations. They give these meters free, and people really appreciated them. I've also heard in some areas they are made to pay so much money for them, for the consumers to have that prepaid meter. Again, it boils down to government monitoring. If you have given a policy statement, you made a policy statement, then you ensure that that policy statement is followed. Why will, I don't know whether it's discourse now, why would they want to be selling meters when government have said, give these meters free? And most people have said, okay, go away with your meter. We'll prefer without, you ask us to pay. And as costly as maybe 100 or something thousand naira, when in some areas they are getting it free.
Because, when it was being discussed on radio earlier today, some people were saying, so what about we that have had to pay for this? Are you saying you're going to reimburse us? Are you giving us our money back?
Well, they will not give them their money back. I had that kind of experience.
They talked about returning the funds to those who had to pay. Back then, when they started the NMMP, remember?
Okay, yes, that's true, yes. But again, I just knew that with certain bureaucracy here, and it will be difficult for these persons to collect their money back. Yes, it's going to be very, very difficult. Because
money is easy to go out. So coming in is a problem.
Even places that were even giving these meters free, it was like a miracle. People started praying for the officials they saw there, and even arranged to cook for them, give them food, and they were happy that, is this happening in Nigeria? I was just laughing. And at the end of the day, they even did a training. I was among for the people that they gave these new meters, how it will operate. I would say, are these people Nigerians? People on their own were even giving them money. See that? But so you could see that Nigerians were a good people. As long as the government will do what they have told us they want to do, people will embrace it and cooperate with them. Until today, when we see those officials, we still appreciate them because they come from time to time. So, coming to looking at this Lagos State government enacting this their law, I think they should call all the stakeholders together and see that whatever legislation they are going to come out with will reflect the realities on ground.
So it won't be counterproductive.
Exactly.
Well, let's move on. The cash withdrawal limit regulation by the CBN is still generating a lot of uproar. And now we see the House of Representatives asking the CBN to implement, or rather to immediately suspend the regulation of this policy. And the members of the lower house who apparently are not happy about the policy, they're saying that the CBN should appear before the House and also put a stop to it. But we don't see that happening. The CBN says they are going on with the policy.
Well, the distinguished, or the honorable members, let me use that word, because that's the honorable members, they are doing their own work too, oversight function. And if they feel a little bit uncomfortable, of course, maybe their constituents have been complaining to them, they have a right. It's constitutional for them to say, CBN, this policy, come and explain, let us understand, so that we can go back and tell our people. There's nothing wrong with that. But CBN is pursuing an objective, which for them, to stabilize the economy, price stability, control, and all that. Yes, and of course, at the same time, trying to check excessive cash. Because if you watch, we've been talking about cashless policy for over a decade. And some people till today have not come to terms with it. They still believe in cash and carry. It's a mindset, and CBN is doing everything possible. But I think what the CBN need to do now is to, kind of remodel their process.
But do you
try to come with persuasion, moral persuasion, awareness. Let them know the benefit of this cashless, because take the average farmer in the village or the average trader in the village. He or she find it difficult to say, okay, I've given you my goods. Then you are pressing something to transfer,
So perhaps where we should even start from is financial inclusion. If you don't include those people first,
obviously,
all of these limit on cash withdrawal.
Once they are included, they have a bank account, as simple as that. Then the woman will just give you her account and you just transfer. And as soon as she sees the alert, see the money there, take your goods. And there also need to be a lot of awareness needs to be done continuously. Recently, I was in some rural areas. So do you think it's
ill-timed, this particular policy?
It is not, because there must come a time where we just need to say this, we want a cashless policy. Look at the advantages of it. You go into a bank, you want to withdraw large sums of money, and you carry that, you are going on top of maybe under Beggar Bridge. Though they say money is security, but at that instance, money will be your insecurity. So cashless policy has come to stay. Nigerians should just continue to embrace it and let focus group, people in rural areas, the POS operators, let them form a kind of association to begin to enlighten the people in their community that, look, you can do your transaction without involving cash, as little as even 5,000 naira. So,
but do you see this policy working in the rural areas? We know that in the urban areas, it might have some, result or some success. But when you look at the rural areas, the woman selling pepper, the woman, going to the farm, how effective?
But let's look at the withdrawal CBN is saying. If you go to an ATM, you withdraw 5,000 naira in the rural area. That's quite a lot of money.
These people don't even, have access. Some of them don't even have access to ATM cards or even bank accounts.
So they don't even have. So that's the first place to start from. Yes, we have some banks in the rural area.
I'm saying that the cashless policy, that's the goal, right?
Yes.
But do these people even have that understanding to start with?
That's where awareness comes in, first of all. If they understand that, yes, it's going to be the same thing with the cash or the cashless, they need to have a bank account. And I must tell you a practical experience. I was recently in some villages in the Niger Delta, and I was impressed. I saw women, illiterates, who were in the bank to renew their ATM cards. I was smiling. I said, yes. These were farmers. They had their cutlass at home with them. They came into the bank. They say, my card, they say it don't expire. I want to come and... And I saw the banking officers attending to them.
But these are also the most vulnerable when it comes to scams. We've
Agreed.
seen a lot of them, getting scammed online. So if you're saying you want to bring them online, you want to make them bank virtually, what are the security measures you're putting in place to protect them?
Good. It's going to be tough. There is no system that is 100% proof. Yes, but the most important is for them to have that awareness that this is for their benefit. Then, of course, the other issues of trying to prevent them to be scammed will take care of itself gradually.
Okay. We'll see how that pans out. But let's talk about road infrastructure, where the NNPC Limited is now to provide additional 1 trillion naira for road projects in Nigeria. This according to the group chief executive, Mele Kyari, who announced this in Lagos. He disclosed this, saying that the 1 trillion naira would be invested on road projects through the federal government road infrastructure tax credit scheme.
Yes. Yes, the government, of course, must give kudos to the ministry and, of course, the minister of, even though I'm one of his highly critics, that's Works and Housing, yes. Of course, the ministry has done quite a lot in terms of road construction, and using that tax credit scheme. We've seen it all over the place. Maybe with time, we will see all those roads being completed and delivered. Yes, they need to continue that scheme and ensure that. But the one thing I noticed that there's a kind of delay, and the contractor will tell you they will not be mobilized. But using this tax credit scheme now, you don't need to wait for government for any funding. Yes, the tax credit scheme, you do it, then based on your credit you have with the government in terms of your tax, you just deduct and pay what is left. So it's like government is saying, I don't have money to pay you now, but you are to pay me tax in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So that's your payment. Use it to do this road, so that I will not come and collect tax from you. It's
so
not
so
a
is there
tax
like an agreement?
Yes, an agreement, yes, and it has been working. You know, the ministry, of course, the minister
with
is a
different
lawyer.
companies?
Yes, with different companies. It's going on.
I know there's one with Dangote.
Of course, with different companies, yes, they have it.
Abuja, Lokoja.
Exactly.
Road.
So it can be used in other federal roads in the country, and we'll see an improvement in our road infrastructure. We must give the ministry kudos for what they have been doing.
Well, still on cashless transactions, we're seeing here that cashless transactions in Nigeria rose by 41.75%.
You can see.
To 318 trillion naira in the first 11 months of 2022, according to the statistics from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System.
Yeah.
This is good news.
It's good news. That is just to confirm what I said, that in my village that I had the opportunity of being, I saw that the people are a little bit sophisticated now, because I could see their discussions in terms of payment, ATM card, and no matter how little, you know, even illiterates were doing it, you know. So I think gradually we are coming to embrace it, and because that is the only way to go, is for everybody's safety. But I agree with your points that they need to also continue to tell them about the scams that can be available, so that they know, not when some persons will call you, you begin to give out some of numbers you're not supposed to give out. So they need to be educated on that. And I think we'll be able to achieve that cashless policy in a few years. Yeah,
but of course, this would also provide more job opportunities, especially for the POS operators,
of course,
in the country. But let's also look at the fact that there is the network issue that is consistent with businesses in Nigeria.
Yes.
Is that also being looked into?
Yes, I always give you a practical example. There's, I will not advertise for any telecom company, but I can advertise my village. I was in my village, and I won't mention the name, and I needed to withdraw just about 10,000 naira. And I had my card, one of the banks, and I approached the POS, and she said, that particular bank, their network is always good. And I was surprised, because in Lagos, that particular bank, the network is always failing me. And immediately I gave her the card. Before I knew what, he said, approved bank, everything, and my money was given. And I was surprised, you know.
Well, I've had my own fair share of, you know, issues with transactions with POS.
But they complain that other banks, there are problems, you know. Maybe it has to do with the telecom provider there. You know, but for me, in that particular instance, it was fine. But I also discussed with other persons, and they said, if it's a particular bank, you have to move certain kilometers to get maybe close to their network, close to their marks and all that, you know. But I also saw another telecom company building a marks, you know, because of all that complaint. And I see that yes, the telecom companies are really working to ensure that our teledensity is really improved, so that even in the remotest part of the country, people can access these services. We must give them kudos for that.
All right, I think that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Charles Fakroha, IBrandTV Senior Analyst.
It's always a pleasure.
Have a great weekend.
Enjoy your weekend too.
All right, still to come, we'll continue our analysis of the CBN's policy, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria's cash withdrawal limit, and the impact on individuals as well as businesses, as we look at the reactions of Nigerians. We'll be right back.